want you all to know that America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens. I can hear you.
Welcome to another episode of the show where we interview the storytellers, the hustlers, and the outcasts of the world. A special 9/11 show. I'm recording this on the night before September 11th, and it is called What We Can Learn from 9/11. Wanted to just kind of share my thoughts, some memories from that time, and it's hard to believe that it's been almost 20 years since that happened. So I'm going to get right to it because I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from this. And that's weird to say. Being in the pandemic, you think, well, how is the pandemic the same as 9/11? It is very similar in a lot of ways. But let's go back to 9/11. September 11th, 2001. I remember waking up. So before, I used to sleep with the radio on, and I used to listen to music. That's how I used to fall asleep. Being that I was listening to a radio station, I could also hear commercials. I could also hear the radio DJ, if they're talking or promoting anything or whatnot. I remember at about 3 a.m. or so, Hawaii time, I remember hearing something on the radio saying that a plane crashed into a building, and I was drowsy. I kind of was groggy a little bit, but I heard it and I wondered, what was that about? It was enough for me to actually somewhat wake up, hear it, and just kind of wonder what was that about. And I went back to sleep. I remember I was still living with my mom, and at that time I was about 21. Wow. It's crazy. Just time flies, and sometimes I just gotta remind myself of that. I remember waking up and my mom watching the news, and then I found out what happened. I didn't know what to make of it. It was pretty surreal, but it didn't hit me right away because I'm just thinking, okay, something bad happened on the news. I didn't know the whole gist of it. But I remember watching on the news with my mom and just being like, wow. I was about on my way out the door, and I was heading to the gym, and I remember going to the gym and everyone was working out as usual, but people were talking about it, and there were, guys sitting down on benches and just kind of talking about it. And I think it was on the radio or was playing on the TV at the gym, and it was kind of a big thing. When I drove home, and I'm just kind of telling you what I remember from that day. When I drove home, I think I was going to work, and I was coming home from work, and I remember God Bless America playing on the radio, and I just felt a strong feeling of loss and sadness and just connection, I think, with everything going on. And with President Bush at the time, I think President Bush, the great thing about him was what he did at that time. If you guys remember that iconic speech he made where he had one arm around one of the, I guess, maybe captains of the fire department, and he had a bullhorn, and he was announcing and talking to the construction workers and everybody. And I'll never forget that. But this song, God Bless America, really touched me while I was driving home, and they mixed it with some of his speech. So it was kind of like a mix. And I just remember it being a really powerful moment. 9/11 was a wake-up call. And though I don't have a lot of memories from it, it's very brief, it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call that we had to do things a little bit better. We had to be a little more aware of how we did things, and we had to be safer when we did it. The thing that really, I guess, the visions, and sorry if I'm just kind of rambling, but I'm trying to remember what this was almost 20 years ago. I think the vision that really got me, what I always remember that really hits me still to this day, is the fact that the building's on fire, the Twin Towers, and people are stuck in it, and people are starting to jump out of it. That's how bad it is. I cannot imagine being at the point where something is so bad that I have to jump out from 20, 30 stories, knowing that I'm basically taking my life versus burning in there. Like, it hits me to this day. I still have visions of people flying out the window and bodies falling from buildings, and it's just terrible. But I just cannot, it hits me because I cannot imagine what that person was going through in that moment, that they only had two choices and both meant them dying. Can you imagine just being in that position where either I burn alive and I die this way, or I jump out to my death? Let that sink in a little bit. So that vision, that image will always be with me. I'll never forget it. Sure, there was a lot of other images and, people crying, running through the streets and all that. But I think that's the one that gets me the most, is people jumping from the buildings. Still hurts, still hits me to this day. Like I said, 9/11 was a wake-up call. It was a real wake-up call. And it changed everything. Our whole process of going through the airport and security, and I'll be honest, even the way we looked at foreigners or people that look like they might be from Iraq or that culture, we'd see them in the airport or we'd see them on the plane. Like, I'm not gonna lie, yeah, there's that part of us was still like, I wonder if this person, it's stereotyping, it's fear, it's stereotyping, but a lot of us are wondering, geez, is this person going to do something or whatnot? And it was wrong, but again, people react out of fear. So I remember it being scary to travel, very scary to travel. I didn't, like a lot of people, I was very cautious. Every time I was boarding a plane, I was always fearful that something would happen or somebody would jump out or somebody would, it was very scary back then. Security heightened, like I said, and we had to, take off our shoes, and they had to be thorough when we checked in our bags and everything. Everything changed. I remember one time, I think there was a couple incidents where someone had a bomb in their shoe, or they had something with their shoe, or I don't know if they were attempting to blow up a plane, but there was a lot of close calls. And this event changed our lives forever, security-wise, and just the whole process of taking a flight to anywhere changed. Now, I think the reason why I wanted to do this podcast was it reminds me of what we're going through today. And a lot of you might wonder, what does 9/11 have to do with today? Part of my personality, and just, I guess, me as a business owner or entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it, I see things ahead. I see things 5 steps ahead. I see things years in advance. I see trends starting to happen. I know where things are going. I know how the world changes. I know how the world adapts. I know just how we evolve in general. And I think we can learn a lot from a 9/11 for our current situation with the pandemic and the lockdown. Things are changing. The world is changing. Now we're wearing masks. Now everything that we do, whether it be social distancing, being in large groups, being in smaller groups, the way we do things now is changing. And a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people don't like the fact of their freedom being taken away because they have to wear a mask, or they have to do all these things that they just do not like, they despise. And trust me, I don't like a lot of it either. But I know what needs to be done, and I know that the world is changing, unfortunately. And I know that if you can just look, if you can just put aside your beliefs and everything else, your conspiracy theories, if you can put all that aside and you can see what's happening now, the world is changing. And much like 9/11, how we didn't want to take off our shoes and we didn't want to go through that whole process in the airport of them checking every little thing and being so careful, and we were living in fear. I think there's a lot of similarities with the pandemic and 9/11. That's what's happening now. A lot of us are living in fear. A lot of us don't like the change. A lot of us think that it's such a hassle to put on a mask and go in a store. But I just feel like in a year or more, all of this will be normal, and we'll be looking back at it like same as 9/11, like how we look back at 9/11 now. Whatever your thought process is, you know that the whole process of checking in at the airport is a lot more normal, seems a lot more normal, and just like everyday life compared to what it was in 2001 when it first happened. It took a long period for us to adjust, to adapt. And I feel like that's what's going to happen with the current state, the current landscape that we're in, is we're going to adapt, we're going to change, and we're going to get better at this. Sure, a lot of things are out of our control and things might not make any sense, but we're all still learning. I mean, you can listen to the governor, you can listen to the mayor, and you can tell a lot of them they can't really give a definite answer on a lot of things because they're still trying to figure it out. So I think everyone, no matter if you're in a higher power, you're in charge, you're just trying to figure it out. We're all trying to make sense of this. But I promise you, with time, we're going to find easier and more efficient ways of doing this. If this will be the new norm, and if this does stick around forever, and it changes us like 9/11 did, we're going to evolve and we're going to find easier ways to do it. And it might be easier down the line. But right now, I mean, it only started in March and we're in September right now. It's been less than a year. So what I'm saying is we have to give it time. Same thing with technology. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember pagers and remember those big brick cell phones. Look at where we are now. I'm shooting a podcast. I'm recording a podcast on my phone. We have internet on our phone. We have GPS. We have video. We have camera. We have everything. But maybe even 10 years ago, we didn't even have that. So in closing, what I'm saying is be patient, and everything evolves over time, but it takes time. It takes time and a whole lot of patience and a whole lot of teamwork. We have to work together to get through this. Whatever your theories are, whatever your beliefs are, just know that we are going through a same time period, same type of situation as 9/11. And we're learning all this, and we're finding ways to be safer and just trying our best to keep each other safe and protect our loved ones. So give it time, guys. we're going to get through this. We're going to evolve. We're going to adapt. And maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, you can listen to this podcast, or you can look back and you can say, man, I can't imagine a day that I go out without my mask. It's such a normal thing. And maybe the mask will be a lot thinner later on down the line, and we will be able to breathe better, or I don't know what's going to happen. But know that everything evolves and things do get better with time, but everything takes time. But that's just a quick podcast. My thoughts on 9/11, my memories, and the lessons that we can learn from 9/11 that we can apply to the current state. All right, guys, I hope you guys like this podcast. If you did, leave a comment on our Instagram or YouTube. Share your thoughts, share your memories on 9/11 and what you think. Thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next episode. Or maybe we'll have something more lighthearted. Maybe we can have a little bit more fun. But just want to do this 9/11 podcast just to kind of, get out some thoughts and just kind of put things into perspective. Stay safe out there. Take care. And I'll see you on the next episode.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.